On the back straightaway, into turn number 3, thick thin, still 3 wide, Brandon Feeney, high, wide, and handsome. He's going to go to the outside and get past Miller.
I don't mean to be two birds and bees with you folks, but this is how cautions are born.
Welcome to episode number 41 of the Feeney Call. Tonight's guest will be Connor Ellis. Just before we get to talking to him, I want to thank all the sponsors on board the podcast for coming on board this year, sponsoring me, and helping upgrade the equipment slowly and get better. And as I'm learning to do new things, editing, obviously trying to get the quality up and stuff like that, upgrading my computer so I can kind of make things easier. Still slowly working on those upgrades, stuff like that, and hopefully going to have some of the ring lights and stuff like that coming around and light it up a little bit better so I'm not so shadowed and etc. Try to teach myself some graphic abilities so I can work on like my fan question period posts and stuff like that. And real thankful to John from Jomo Media for doing all my cards and stuff like that for like the YouTube page and Spotify and stuff like that I get to share with all you guys. But before go too long-winded into that stuff, yeah, unfortunately right now views are, I don't know why they're down. I don't know if it's because everyone's in the shop building, working on their cars or etc. stuff like that. So if you enjoy the podcast, like it, share with your friends. Let's try to get the views back up. Or maybe tell me ways I can improve or guests you might want to see on, stuff like that, because like I have another 9 episodes booked, I think, right now with guests. Some names that I think people will be excited for. But yeah, we're getting closer and closer to race season. I think I'm going to be at a couple of tracks for a couple guys testing, and I'm going to be helping them out in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be at a NASCAR Kenzie Series test, I think the beginning of May. So yeah. For those of you that were following on Facebook, I had another bowling tournament on the past weekend, and I'm getting better at figuring out these sport shots. It's taking me a little bit longer than I'd like, but unfortunately I figured it out, and then I had a pain in my arm that couldn't shake. So unfortunately didn't make the cut, but it is what it is. That's when you start trying new things as a sport, sometimes you hurt yourself and you have to back off a little bit. But enough about bowling. And also we have the Opimo Modified up for sale again. So if you know anyone looking for an Oscaar Sunset Modified, let me know. It's posted for a really good price, I feel like, to get out of the trailer and kind of, maybe make room for something new, or just leave it empty for a while. I don't know yet. Either way, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on the driver of the number 48 Hot Rod, Connor Ellis. All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Feeney Call. We got Connor Ellis, driver of the number 48 Hot Rod. Why don't you introduce yourself to some of the fans that might not know you?
Oh, I'm Connor Ellis. Well, as you know, I now drive the 48 Oscaar Hot Rod in the Oscaar Hot Rod Series. Been racing for 12 years now. This will be year 13. And yeah.
Yeah, and lucky number 13, and you've driven a lot of cars, whether it's been from mini trucks, junior late models, bone stocks or pure stocks, depending on the track. Is there anything else that you drove on your way for the Oscar Hot Rod Series?
There was one day where I hopped in a little winged sprint car up at Grand Bend. Tried one of those out.
Like a micro sprint is, I think they call those up there.
I,
Is that
I
what those?
believe it was, yeah.
So what was
Yeah.
that? What was that like for just testing around? Is it like anything else you've ever driven, or?
It was kind of like the junior late models, but a lot rickier, like kind of like a wooden roller coaster to drive. But being honest, I mean, those things do like to jump around a bit, but I managed to get second out of the three of us, so I didn't mind it too much.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one of those things that like that's why I find about different parts of the province is like up at like Grand Bend, they'll have like the micro sprints. And like the junior late models seem to be more like Sunset and Peterborough. Like I think Sauble has them now, but like you know what I mean? Like they move around like who has them. It's like, oh, this track sees them, they're cool, and like they're there for a couple of years. And then like, oh well, this track's seen it, and you know what I mean? But without going on a side tangent too badly, because I'll start doing that really quickly. Um, so you had the blue was it a Chevelle last year? Then
Yes, it was a blue Chevelle.
okay, sorry, I got like half a picture in front of me. I'm like, I think it's Chevelle. I'm not good with car names, especially like depending on yours. But
Yeah, no,
so unfortunately, that car met an end at
yeah.
Delaware Speedways. We are talking about before I hit the record button. What are you bringing to the Oscar Hot Rod Series this year?
It'll be a '68 Chevelle again, but it's got a quite a nice late model chassis. It's only a couple years old from the States, and with a brand new Hemke front clip on it. So it'll be a significantly better piece of equipment than what I had before, which was just a much older late model.
Are you looking to do with the upgrades? Obviously, are you changing up like the livery? Or are you going to keep it kind of close? Like,
We're changing everything up.
are you going to keep the Zardo-esque numbers though this year?
No, not this year though.
Sorry, I had to ask because I'm literally looking at it. I'm like, those numbers are really easy to see. Um, as I've raced with Billy and Lane Zardo a couple times up to the late models and Sunset Speedway and stuff like that. Why don't we go over a little bit of the story of how basically those numbers came about and why you have a bright green fire suit?
Well, let's see here. For my rookie year, was racing against Bill Zardo Senior, and I'll be honest, my first practice out there at Sunset, I accidentally chopped him in a corner without realizing it too much. And so then afterwards, I go start walking down to his pit to apologize for it. And I get up to his pits, and someone's in his window just screaming at him, telling him that he's too old. He better not be on track for the feature and all that. Just sit there screaming and swearing and hollering at him. He's not even out of the car yet. So I'm sitting there just at that end of his pit box, and finally he gets out of the car and he looks over at me and he goes, "Well, what do you want?" And I went, "I came over to say sorry for cutting you off there." And he's like, "Oh, kid, don't worry about it. You're just out there to have fun." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And so from then on, me and him kind of just had a very good mutual understanding of each other and respected each other plenty. And then so we were up at Peterborough for the first time with these cars, and I was starting to run really short on tires, and he calls me over to his truck because he was pulling in and goes, "Hey, if you need any tires, let me know because I got a bunch I can give you." And I went, "Actually, I'm in need of tires. So when do you think I can come get them?" So we set up a day and I went and picked up tires from him, and we just sat there and talked for a while. And then me and him and his whole family and my family just got along really well. And so then sadly he passed in the off season before they could get the fire suit. So they decided to give it to me as the other rookie of the year. So I decided as a memorial to do the numbers in the fire suit as his.
So what was that like as you were kind of jumping into the V8 series to get a race against like a Bill Zardo Senior and like Stompin' Tom and stuff like that? Like, was it kind of cool for you to drive against some of these guys that have been basically legends and like Canadian Hall of Famers?
Oh yes, big time. I was sitting there looking at it all going, geez, I have got some really strong competition just looking around. And then even now, there's still plenty and more coming to the division. So it's always a blast.
Do you ever look because you're one of the younger drivers in the Oscar series, but like some of these guys have been winning for more years than I've been around. Like there's if you think about it, like Stompin' Tom's won races longer than I've been around, and like I'm 34 years old now. Like it's how they keep going as they get older. And I'm not calling them old, but like some of these guys are retired now and still whooping our butts.
Yeah, it's honestly it's crazy to think about and then be able to go out there and sometimes even run with them or ahead of them occasionally. And I'm able to think about it and go, well, it's awesome. I'm able to do this with people that would probably be able to have more racing stories than I have full life stories. So,
Yeah.
I would just say it's incredible.
So as you are adapting to the hot rod series, because I think before that was the bone stock, um,
Yeah.
who are kind of some of the people that have like helped you kind of like make the car better and help improve you as a driver?
Well, basically all my competition. I always go out on track and try and watch what other people do and see what they do, just to adjust driving style and all that and see what works, what doesn't. But a lot of the people that helped me in the bone stocks was David Rockwood, Joe Lawrence, Chris Lawrence, uh, Jordan Morris, a bunch of the bigger guys in the bone stocks that have now moved up or left the sport, or I'm not sure where some of them are at this point.
There's
I've had,
Chris renting out 600 bone stocks a weekend.
yeah, no kidding. He managed to squeeze me in one of them a time or two now, and they're always a blast a lot to run in. I love running bone stocks, if I'm being honest.
They're honestly the most fun because they're the hardest to drive.
Oh yeah, they're always a handful because they're never the same as the last time you went out. And sometimes it can go from this was a perfect setup to this was horrible on this weekend.
Yeah. The same night during the daytime, it could be like this thing is glued. All of a sudden, the nighttime comes, I'd be like, what went wrong? Like,
Oh, yeah, I've had that happen to me so many times. I've been sitting there just picking my brain, going, why? I can't get this car to rotate. I can't get it to come off the corner. All of a sudden, second race of the night, I've got a top five car. I'm sitting there going, this is completely backwards.
I think that's what makes the bone stock so exciting because you can never be comfortable in the car because all of a sudden it could just stop working like the next. They're almost like an asphalt style dirt car. Like you go into the corner and it's not going to be the same as the last time you hit that corner. The tire could
Exactly.
the tire could be worn out a little bit too much or like built up too much pressure or like parts are starting to fail and it wants to slide out or not turn. It's I've
Yeah.
I, I've always enjoyed them. Do you see yourself like staying with Oscar Hot Rods for a while, or do you look at moving up in a couple years, or more even closer than that?
I would like to stick with them for a little while yet. Just see how things go, see how racing is. And I mean, if the opportunity comes around and I get an opportunity to move up, I might take it, I might not.
So is with getting to drive, like I said, against like Bill Zardo Sr. and like Somp and Tom, is there any like legends you'd like to see come back into like the Hot Rod series and maybe like bring back a vintage car they would have raced back like when it was current for them?
Um, oh, that is a good question.
Like I know everybody would like to see a Junior Hanley Camaro out there, right?
Yeah.
And Junior Hanley driving it. Like we'd all love to see that, but like so like other than that, like do you see like a couple names that are possibly still be able to do it? And
See, I don't quite know who all's left, if I'm being completely honest, because I know sometimes everybody likes to make a rear appearance with their car. And I mean, between now the Oscar hot rods and the Sunset hot rods, I got even less idea on who's stuck around and who's left and all that. So I mean, I don't quite have an answer, but I mean, I have a couple cars I would like to see. I know that much.
well, why don't you answer that? Why don't you answer a couple cars you'd like to see?
Well, I mean, a nice looking Bel Air would definitely be nice to see on track, but I would hate to see it get scratched.
You talking about like a 57 Chevy kind of thing? Like what
Yeah,
Dan Price has?
Pretty much, yeah.
I think that's the best thing about Dan Price's car is it looks perfectly enough to know what it is, but it's not like all original parts where it's like if it wrecks, it's like people are crying. Like that entire body is built by hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
mean, it definitely looks good.
so do you use a lot of stock panels to for your Chevelle, or do you like where's your fabrication line? Is it like from like the doors down, the trunk lid down? Like
Well, it's kind of a bit of a toss up because I'm reusing half an old Chevelle from roof back, but I've chopped that all into 100 pieces now, so can't quite say it's a stock panel anymore. I do have two stock front fenders, but they've got big old tire wells in them. And pretty much the only part I haven't altered is the front valence, besides adding a little piece on each end to widen it out.
well, that's part of a race car. You got to like edit everything. Even if you have like a late model, you're still working the panels that you get out of the kit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know with the late models, they're sitting there, they're bowing the fenders and all that, and just trying to get every last little bit they can get out of them.
That's late models, super stocks, bone stocks. I know I so back when ran bone stock when I first started, I told this story I think previously that I registered my car as a Chevy Chevelle because there was a rule, as you know, you've had to play it too with the bone stocks of the parts must be correct for the year, make, and model. Well, by letting me register as a Chevy Chevelle, it opened the playbook, and I had a Chevy Cavalier Z24 front end with the motor and all that stuff, and then the rear end was all Sunfire stuff, like body and everything.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
by rule, I opened up a can of worms, which they don't let you do that anymore for the registration because registration is accepted as this. That's what it is. Go ahead. You find another car and you can match the parts up.
yep, exactly.
Have you ever done
Well,
anything like that and or to try to get away with sneaking things away?
actually, you'd be probably surprised to hear this. I have never tried it. In fact, I almost always manage to get a text message or phone call with the tech guy and go, "Hey, am I allowed to do this before I do anything?"
My problem is I don't normally have the tech guys to talk to because like for a while at Peterborough we'd go like every other year we'd get a new tech guy. So then if I
Yeah.
wanted to try something like we're getting a new tech guy, I don't know who he is yet. I'm like, I'll just try it. Like, and there's some things that like before I knew what was going on, I kind of like they were already part of the car, and it's like I didn't know. Like when you first start racing, you don't understand why there's 6 bump stops in the right front spring, right? Like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense. It's like why would the guy do that until you take it on the corner and the thing doesn't roll over? Like there's, I don't want to say I've done a lot, but I've accidentally tried out a lot of things.
I've accidentally tried out a couple things. In fact, this last year I almost went out for the Peterborough's heat races and the bone stocks, and I almost had like 4 or 5 spring rubbers in the right rear. Then I decided to read the rule book first and went, "Oh, it only says one. That's
One
good to know."
one per corner.
Yeah, I was like, "All right." Yeah,
So
so
uh it says the same thing in the mini stock, so one per corner. Uh, But I failed ride height the week before the championship night. So I had one in the spring and I had one above the spring perch below the strut tower. I'm like, it's not technically in the spring. I'm like, gray
yeah.
area. And like the bolts were long enough, I could still do it up, just trying to get the ride height up. I think I had to get it up like 3/4 of an inch. Like it was
Oh,
a lot. I just had a
yeah.
spring go bad and the car sat at the track. I'm like, I don't have another spring. I'm like, this is just supposed to be, fun little car. And especially so I think I ended up throwing a super stock left rear spring or something like that in the left front of that thing and made it work. But yeah, just
Uh,
I know there's been rumors of rolls of duct tape underneath certain like quick struts and stuff like that, or like painter's tape to wedge the car a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
some people say that they like manage to stuff stuff up into their shocks just so it can't compress any further.
so the one I did the most, and I don't care if a tech guy looks at this if I bring another car out. The one I did the most was always I would dent the bottom, so like I jack the car up to where I want it to sit for like ride height for so it passes the scales. I take the shock on the backside and bang the crap out of it so the piston couldn't come down. it hit it. And then if they ever asked, I'm like, oh, I must have got it in the crash like a couple weeks ago, and I just didn't notice it because it was on the backside. So
Exactly.
yeah, so if anyone's ever like found a bunch of my old struts, that's why the backside of them was always bent. But yeah, is there any if you had a chance to run in like say a United four or combined eights or something like that, is there anything you want to try to see if it even work in like a 4 8 cylinder car?
I mean, I'd definitely like to see the difference between a four barrel and an 8 barrel, but I'm not sure how I would get away with it.
An eight
Or,
barrel?
I mean, 2 4 barrels, yeah.
Oh, get a little like tunnel ram like roadkill on it.
Yeah, just hopefully they don't notice too much.
Well, I mean, if it's no rules, just run as fast as you want. It,
Exactly. Like,
it doesn't matter if they notice or not.
yeah.
I I know I've definitely run a hot rod with a 4 barrel on it.
I mean, I wanted to take it out to like the Sobel V8 stocks and just try it out because I have a couple of buddies that have done it and they've just like thrown 4 barrels on. I've seen one of them roll out of the trailer with some really sticky saran wrap tires. And hopefully he doesn't bring those to the race day.
Well, he's already got the good out of them. I can't say I've never doped tires. Um, the ones I normally dope are like practice tires, and like I'll have so like mini stocks. The tire's like $200 a tire, almost no different than having a super stock or late model at the time. So I found a set off. I think it was Danny Benedict from like his rookie year. I think he gave them to me, but they were like 95 on the odometer. So I ground them down, gave them a fresh surface, then I think it was super clean, and then wrapped them and left them in the heat for like 2 months. They came out at 15 on the barometer.
My,
I'm like, all right, that's a little too much and a little too long.
yeah. I mean, I've heard of some dirt guys using WD-40 and all that just to get a little bit more drawn out of them when their tires are starting to get down.
Yeah, WD-40, uh, brake fluid will eat into a tire too. Anything to make it softer.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I didn't realize this was going to like turn me confessing a bunch of cheating, but apparently this is. But is there any series that like you dream to get into besides the hot rods? Like, do you look at like you really like to try like APC racing, like if the chance? Is it like NASCAR Canada series, Oscar mods? Like, what's your dream series to get into?
So my dream would probably be the NASCAR Canada series. Just I've always seen them around and I've always wanted to go ahead and try them out at least once. But I mean, maybe don't have the time or the money to build a car. So
Even
just,
renting them's not cheap.
yeah, it's like 10, 15, 20K a day.
I got my last quote at 18 grand, but I had to supply my own fuel and tires and NASCAR license and pit passes, and that was for like a mid-level car.
Jeez.
I was contemplating if I could sell my car about doing it, but it's like, yeah, that's a lot for one race.
Yeah, one race and might not even guarantee that you can come back for another.
Well, not even that you can't come back for another. Like it might be a guarantee, like a this is a one and done, and that's 30K. It's like I'm at the point in my life now. It's like that 30K could go towards a house.
Yeah. Well, I know that exact feeling. I was saving up for a house there, and then that last race season went through 4 mowers, and then just before the crash, I put all new suspension into it, and well, we seen how that went.
Yeah. That's the worst too. Is like always when the car is like at the absolute best it can be is when something happens to it.
Yeah,
Like or if it's sold.
yeah, that's why I never put the for sale signs up on the car until the season is done, or I'm not putting the car on track anymore.
I'll put a for sale like I'll post it for sale. Like I had the neon for sale, I had the super stock for sale last year, but I don't shake hands and say the deal's final until that car is done for the season.
Exactly.
So I believe your old bone stock is now with is it Dustin Johnson at Varney?
Yes.
So we actually raced together. I think it was during COVID at Flamborough. I think you had that, and I think your sister was racing as well.
Yes, she probably had a Cavalier. I'm trying to remember what color it was.
No, I think she had a Cobalt as well.
Yeah, she would have had the Cobalt at that time with
Yeah, and
the
you were in the Cavalier.
yeah. Oh, the Sunfire actually then.
Yeah,
We
same
we
thing.
only built that car for one enduro race and it just we couldn't kill it. And now Jesse Howard has it.
Is that the one that was like the new one she's building? Is that the one that she stole the cage out of, or is
I'll be honest, I have no clue.
we're gonna have to ask Jesse and see what the answer is. But
All right.
but yeah, I remember racing freaking that was the time that it rained during our qualifying. I think it was actually Frostfest. That rained during our 2 lap qualifying and as we went to 1 and 2. I think me and you both spun out and like, how do you send us out in the rain and they let us requalify? But it's like,
Yeah, I know I was getting really loose.
yeah,
It's definitely fun to drive. I don't mind driving in the rain.
I don't mind it if I know about it. Because you
Yeah, that is the one thing.
like if we so like as a bone stock or a mini stock, if the track is damp, I understand we're the low series, but part of our job is drying the track and trying to get the dry series or the slick tires out there. If I know that, I adjust the car for the damp conditions and hope I don't look like an idiot.
Yeah,
Right?
like adjust the pressures, maybe take a spring rubber out,
Yeah.
all that.
Build a little stability in.
Yeah,
Maybe hook the sway bar back up because like I've never run a front wheel drive car with a sway bar actually hooked up. Just to
I,
make
I've always cut both out.
um I had a rear in the neon, but the neon was super twitchy without it. Like it was twitchy as it was, but like you take the bar out, it was like evil twitchy.
Oh,
Like
see, here's the thing. I love to drive a car like that. I absolutely hate to drive like a stable car. I want to be in the car and be along for the ride, more or less.
so after I put the bar in, it was still like if you went from this like normal turn the neon to that, you're going around. Like that's after the bar. So like before the bar, if you hit a bump in the straightaway, you went around.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was a little too much for me to, especially with that opening in the wall at Peterborough. I'm like, I do not because the bump is right before it. So if I overcorrect it, I'm going to the opening. And I don't know if you ever hit that opening, but it hurts almost as bad as the Delaware wall, I'm assuming.
I've never actually, knock on wood, never wrecked at Peterborough. I've been up the back wall. I was the first one to put the nice tire stripes right through the whole Peterborough Speedway 2 years ago.
You weren't the first one.
First one on that weekend, at least at KTC.
So I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of me and my Sunfire actually driving up the Pepsi sign. Like
Oh
I
my.
so the signs used to be right against the wall. So this was my first year racing. I was on the outside fighting for the lead in the feature, which as a rookie, I don't know any better than to just drive my pants off. But I got a little tap in the left rear of the bumper, got the car loose, overcorrected it, hit the K rail, went up the wall. The rear of the car hit the Pepsi sign, took a big chunk out of it, and then set me down as an endo and then skidded across the track. I started driving towards the pits. They put the red flag out. I'm like, well, no, I'm just gonna go change the tires and be fine. They're like, no, you're done. I'm like, I just got 4 flat tires. I'm like, we can get this changed and back out here. They're like, no. Like you need to look over the car. I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, so I came from the world of demolition derbies and stuff like that, right? So like a hit like that was nothing. Like it was a soft landing, like because the tires blow and it's you land down softly, right? But
Yeah.
like I don't suggest that in a legend car though, because in the legends it hurts.
Yeah, I don't think there's much room for error in those though.
They are so it's really weird to describe a legend car. They are really easy to drive, but they're really hard to drive fast. So like
Yeah,
it's but that's where like you liking a twitchy car, you would love those. Because you're constantly sawing at the wheel when you're going faster. So like when I was at the absolute fastest, uh before I sold my legend and stuff like that, because well, I just had too many race cars at the time. It was literally like if you're not constantly back forth, back forth, back forth, it was almost like a tenth and a half slower if you were just like through the corners. I don't know why. It's probably because I didn't set the car up right, because I don't think I ever changed the setup in that car. I just set the toe, set the tire pressures, and hope for the best. But that was
Yeah.
I got that car to save money to not run my late model that year, and then I ended up running late model and legend cars, so that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I've wanted to try one of those for a while now. I mean, I I'm thinking I might have to try a race out once or twice if I can ask someone nicely.
Would that be like a Mr. Kenny McNichol or something like that, you know, has a couple of them?
Uh, I don't know at the moment.
Okay.
It's yeah, bit of a situation there, but I won't talk about that too much.
But but yeah, either way, there's a there's that one, and there's I think Foisey has rental cars. Who else has rental cars? I think I'm not sure if Jeff Drimmy still has some, but they're probably like I said, I like driving the bone stocks, but the legend cars feel like if you go karting with your friends.
Oh,
They feel super fast. You have no idea what the hell you're doing at any time, and at any time you could crash and not really care. Well, you'll care, but it's one of those things that
yeah. I was finally getting to talk to people about like the price of them and realized they're not actually that bad. And it's a good way to save money and still race a fast or at least quick car.
well, yeah, because they're realistically going around Peterborough and stuff like that, and between super stock and late model times, like, and I think that as they progress, they're getting faster as people figure out the new motors, the new tires, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're starting to run a little bit low on time here, so I'm going to give you a few moments where you can thank your sponsors for this year and last year, and where people can find you on social media. Plus, if you have any merchandise for sale.
So we don't have any merchandise just yet, but I would definitely like to thank my sponsors, Butterworth's Napa, RFK Paralegal, Kenny Nickel Welding and Fabricating, and uh, PC 275 with Tracy Ellis, and ooh, Buffy Ellis from her real estate firm. And then for this year, I'd like to thank Butterworth's Napa, RFK Paralegal Service, and PC 275. And there's one more that we're coming to.
And then what about where people can find you on like social media and stuff like that?
Let's see, for Facebook, it's CTE Racing on Facebook and TikTok, as well as Instagram.
As shown the sign above his head over here. That was like perfectly placed there. You got all your trophies in the background.
Yeah, so all mine and my sister's trophies. Oh, I guess my dad also has one up there as well.
Hey, do you ever like brag that to your dad? Like, you got one. Me and my sister have all these. Like, does that ever come up for you?
It was a one time thing. It was a one time. I'll say that much.
One time, and then it was like, yeah, well, guess what's gonna happen now? All right, well, we're not playing that game anymore.
Yeah.
You can have the second one if we don't talk about this again.
Yep.
But anyway, buddy, I thank you for joining me and spending time on your evening tonight. I hope to see that car all painted up and lettered up soon, because you guys start racing what, middle of May?
Uh, Middle of May, maybe end of May, if I'm not mistaken.
And you're just running with Oscar. Are you doing any of the Sunset or the Varney dates that are like separate?
I would like to, but I'm not sure if I'll have enough time because this car is really fighting me at the moment. I was figuring I was going to be able to start painting it this week, and well, I now got 100 other things to do on it.
Well, better to find it now than like a week before race season started.
Oh, it's definitely better to find it now than then.
Did you like start like a roadkill list and you're like writing it down the fenders and stuff like that?
We have a book, and it was a page, and now it is a book.
Yeah. So anytime I build like a bone stock or like a derby car, I do the roadkill style list of like drawing it down the hood. Just because I feel like it's more official if it's on the car and you get to cross it off. Because then you just paint over it anyway.
That is a great idea. I should have done that.
Yeah. Just make sure you don't use chalk or something that the paint's going to bubble on.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, thank you for joining me. Can't wait to see you race. Probably see you a couple times because I think I'm supposed to hop in a car this year. Haven't exactly heard back if I'm driving 1 or 2 hot rods and possibly getting a third start in a hot rod. So we'll see.
Alrighty. Sounds good. Hopefully I get to see you out there then.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, I'll be there taking pictures.
Sounds good.
All right. Have yourselves a great night.
Thank you. You as well.